Before we begin today's story, take a moment to subscribe if you enjoy emotionally driven stories that stay with you long after the video ends. These stories aren't loud or rushed, they quietly settle into your heart. And if you stay until the end, this one might remain with you longer than you expect. Ethan spent the evening moving from one small repair to another around the house, his hands busy, his thoughts somewhere far away. The past year had left a hollow space in him, one he tried to ignore by fixing whatever he could see and touch. In the kitchen, dishes clinked softly as his mother, Linda, washed them with careful focus. Her movements were steady, but the tiredness behind her eyes was hard to miss. The house had grown quieter over the months, not just in sound but in spirit. He tightened the final screw on the old cabinet and stepped back. Small jobs like this helped. They didn't ask questions. They didn't bring up memories. They didn't say Emily's name. Emily, who had left without warning, without explanation, without goodbye. The silence between him and his mother felt heavy tonight. Not uncomfortable, just full of things neither of them said out loud. He noticed how much she had been holding together, the home, the routines, and him. Without thinking much about it, Ethan walked up behind her and gently wrapped his arms around her shoulders. It was a quiet gesture of gratitude more than comfort. She tensed for a brief second, then relaxed into the hug. A shaky breath escaped her. He pulled back slightly, surprised. When she turned, her expression wasn't just emotional, it was conflicted. "Ethan," she said softly, her voice trembling. "There's something I should have told you a long time ago." His chest tightened. "What is it, Mom?" "Not here," she replied. "Come sit with me." They moved to the dining table. Her hands trembled as she reached into a drawer and pulled out a worn, slightly wrinkled envelope. She placed it in front of him like it carried weight far beyond paper. "This came the week after Emily left," she said quietly. "It's addressed to you." His pulse quickened. "A letter. She asked me not to give it to you right away," Linda admitted. "She said you were already hurting enough. I thought waiting would protect you. But now I think I only made it harder." Ethan stared at the envelope, his name written in handwriting he would recognize anywhere. Months of confusion and unanswered questions suddenly felt very close to the surface. He reached for it. But before he could open it, a soft knock echoed through the house. Not loud. Not rushed. Familiar. They both looked toward the door. Then a gentle voice from outside. "Ethan, are you home?" His heart stopped. Ethan stood frozen for a moment, the envelope still in his hand, the voice at the door echoing through memories he had tried hard to bury. He moved slowly, almost cautiously, and opened it. Cold winter air slipped inside, and there she was. Emily. Snow rested lightly on her hair. Her eyes carried hesitation, regret, and something that looked like hope. A year had passed, yet the familiarity between them felt immediate and disorienting. "I didn't know if you'd open the door," she said quietly. Ethan searched for words but found none ready. Too many emotions rose at once: relief, confusion, hurt, and a strange calm he didn't expect. Behind him, Linda stepped into the hallway, offered a gentle, knowing glance, and quietly gave them space. Emily's eyes dropped to the envelope in his hand. "So she gave it to you," Emily said softly. "She said you told her to wait," Ethan replied. "I did," Emily nodded. "I didn't have the courage back then to explain everything face to face." The wind nudged the door again. Ethan stepped aside and let her enter. The door closed with a muted thud, sealing them inside a moment neither of them had prepared for. They stood across from each other in the living room, distance measured not in steps, but in months of silence. "Why are you here?" Ethan asked gently, honestly. "Because the truth shouldn't stay hidden this long," she answered. "And because leaving the way I did was wrong." He didn't interrupt. He simply listened. Emily explained how her father had fallen seriously ill without warning. Hospital visits turned into long nights, difficult decisions, and responsibilities she felt unready for. Everything changed quickly, and panic guided her choices. "I thought if I told you, you'd put your life on hold for me," she said. "I didn't want to be the reason you gave things up. I convinced myself disappearing would hurt less than asking you to stay through it." Ethan exhaled slowly, absorbing every word. "You decided for both of us," he said. Not angrily, just truthfully. I know, she whispered. Fear makes people believe they're being kind when they're actually just running. Silence settled again, but this time it felt clearer, not heavy. He looked at the unopened letter in his hand. What's in it? He asked. The words I couldn't say out loud, Emily replied. The apology. The explanation. And the goodbye I thought was permanent. From the hallway, Linda watched quietly, hopeful but careful not to interrupt. Ethan turned the envelope over once more, then placed it on the table instead of opening it. I'd rather hear it from you now, he said. Emily's eyes filled, but her voice stayed steady. Then I'll tell you everything, this time without running. Emily sat down slowly, as if the weight she had been carrying for a year had finally asked to be set down. Ethan took the chair across from her. The unopened letter remained between them. No longer a mystery, but a symbol of what silence had cost. For months, Emily began. Every day I wanted to call you. I wrote messages I never sent. I kept telling myself it was too late, that I had already done the damage. Why come back now? Ethan asked quietly. My father recovered, she said. Not completely, but enough to stand on his own again. And when things finally grew quiet, the guilt got louder. I realized I didn't just leave a relationship. I left a person who deserved the truth. Ethan listened without interruption. Something inside him had shifted. The sharp edge of anger he once carried had softened into something more reflective. You did hurt me, he said calmly. But not knowing why hurt more than you leaving. I know, she whispered. From the hallway came the faint sound of Linda moving about, giving them privacy but staying near, like a steady presence neither of them needed to see to feel. Ethan picked up the envelope again, then gently slid it toward Emily. Read it, he said. She looked surprised. You don't want to? I want to hear the version that exists today, he answered. Not the one written in fear. Her fingers rested on the paper, but she didn't open it. Instead, she nodded, understanding. I'm not here to ask you to go back to how things were, Emily said. I'm here to take responsibility, and to say that what we had mattered. You mattered. The honesty in her voice was steady now. No longer rushed, no longer hiding. Ethan leaned back, breathing slowly. Closure, he realized, didn't always arrive with grand gestures. Sometimes it came through simple truth spoken at last. I don't know what happens next, he said. But I'm glad you came back with honesty instead of silence. A small, relieved smile appeared through her tears. That's more than I hoped for. He stood and walked her to the door. The night air was still cold, but it no longer felt harsh. Snow continued to fall, quiet, patient, forgiving. Take care of yourself, Emily, he said gently. You too, Ethan. She stepped out, not as a ghost from his past, but as someone real again, understood at last. When he closed the door, the house felt different. Not full, not fixed, but lighter. Linda appeared beside him and squeezed his hand. No questions. Just warmth. Ethan looked once more at the letter, then placed it in the drawer. Not erased, not forgotten, simply no longer in control of his heart. Some answers arrive late. But sometimes late is still enough.